Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and happy Shochu'sday to everybody out there around the world. Christopher and Steven coming to you live from Chiran. You can see Mr. Mori in the background. He's the Toji of Chiran Jozo, a distillery in very far southern Kagoshima that makes a beautiful set of sweet potato products, including Chiran Tichu, which we are very excited about. We're going to try. We're going to drink a whole bunch of it later. I'm also pretty excited to introduce some people that are very near and dear to our hearts and becoming very good friends. We got the team from Winebow here. Look at this. We have an amazing crew of spirits professionals in here from the United States for a whole week, tour through Kyushu, starting in Fukuoka, ending in Miyazaki, and we are living it up. All right, we've been having a good time. We are here today, right now, to learn more about Chiran Tichu and Chiran Jozo. You can see behind me the fermentation tanks and the resting tanks, the aging tanks. And he's going to talk a little bit more about the process. So he's going to take the mic right now. So, お願いします。はい、続いてください。そうですね。Okay, we're going to go into the distillery now, and you can follow along with us. So, thanks for joining. Yeah, I wonder if I can I turn this around? Maybe I can't. Okay.
You want me to do the camera?
It's hard to, yeah. If you can figure out how to turn the camera.
Hey everybody, it's Steven. I'm here too. We've never live streamed from a phone like this in a distillery before. I didn't mean to turn the camera off. I was trying to turn the camera around. This should be a lot of fun. And we're on the move. Yeah, I don't see a way to turn the camera around, so we're going to stick with it this way. All right. Oh. Maybe I'll. They are not in production currently, so we're seeing the distillery when it's at rest. So that this machine has actually got storage equipment in it, but this is normally empty. But yeah, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, please watch your step.
ちょっとそこも段差があるので、通るとき気をつけてください。
Yeah.
ここがまず麹を作る、お米から麹を作るスペース、一時仕込みと言われるところです。
This is the place where they make the rice koji and also where they do the first stage of fermentation.
まずはお米から麹を作るためにお米を浸積、水で浸して水を切ってから米を炊くまではいけませんけど、お米を柔らかくする状態を作ります。
So as we learned yesterday, they rinse the rice, they raise the moisture level in it, they steam it, get it ready for the koji mold to be propagated onto it so that it can grow into the rice grain.
ここはドラムというところで、この中にお米を入れて、蒸気で蒸して冷やして、そして麹菌を入れます。
So they put the rice in here, they can steam it in here, they can cool it in here, and once it's down to the right temperature after steaming, they add the dried spores, and then the drum can turn like a cement mixer and get it all in there really well.
ジクレさんと一緒。
This is so he just mentioned this is very similar to the setup at Jikuya that we saw yesterday, but all right next to each other rather on separate floors.
ここで麹菌をまぶして菌を増やして一晩置いて次の日この三角棚というところにお米を移します。
So same thing, same pattern we learned. One day in the drum, and then the second day it comes into this triangle-shaped hut.
ここで麹菌をもっと増やすために温度を管理しながらお米の中に菌が入り込んでいくようにして米麹その菌をどんどん増殖させる。
So the goal is of course to get the mold to multiply and continue to grow into the grains of rice. So it creates the optimal humid environment for that to continue to take place for one day. And if you do it right, then you get nice growth around the entire grain, not just on one side, not just on the top, but it's growing all the way around and into the grains of rice.
ここで24時間使ってから朝8時からスタートして、次の日の朝7時にはこちらに移して、こちらから、次の日の、7時間、24時間、増殖させてから一時仕込み、このタンクの中にお米を入れる、投入する。
Mostly morning work goes in the morning here. One day later, it gets transferred to here. Next morning, it goes into the primary fermentation vat.
このタンクの中に、お水と、米麹と焼酎用の酵母を入れて発酵させます。
Okay, as you guys know, we take one batch of the koji, add water and yeast.
でこれまた5日ぐらい、5日から6日発酵させて、そこでもうアルコールが、米焼酎と同じですけど、米焼酎はまたもう一回米入れますけど、ここでもアルコールが、14% から 15% もうできています。
It's about 5 or 6 day fermentation. Usually gets the ABV up to about 15% ABV at the end of the 5 or 6 days.
はい、で、芋焼酎ですので、この後に、タンクを移動して、芋を投入します。で、また向こうに動きますので。
そうですね。We're going to move over to the secondary fermentation. Watch that lip. It will take you out. He's like, he's not worried about it. You guys have long legs.
Isn't this fun? Our first Shochu distillery tour. The distillery where I don't work. It's a very different layout than Yamatozuka, obviously.
先ほどビデオに出てましたけど、芋を切ってたところはこの下ですね。
So the emo preparation area that you saw in the video is actually down here. These conveyor belts, and then people stand right here, pick them up one by one, and trim them.
芋が外で、現れて、このレールに入ってきて、トリミング、悪いところを削り出すという作業。
They rinse and wash them outside, then they come in on the conveyor, and they cut away the bits that can be bitter, and then anything that looks damaged, and make them look a little more perfect.
で切られた芋が左のコンベヤーがあるんです。通って上のコンベヤーを通って芋の芯に入る。
So they come across this conveyor around the back. They go up this arm. They're augured up there, and then they're dumped into this sweet potato steamer. That's what this big pot behind you is.
これでスチームで蒸して冷やしてから、これが粉砕機でこれで粉々にして先ほどの一時仕込みのもろみはここに入ってますので、この中に投入します。
Okay, so the primary fermentation, when that's finished, they transfer it to here. After it's done steaming and they've cooled them down, it goes. This is a shredder, and so it'll go. The sweet potatoes will come out of one of these, probably over here, this port, and it'll go in here and it'll chop it all up, and then that gets added to the primary fermentation. 割合どのぐらいですか？
お米が1に対して5倍です。
So they do 5 times as much in volume of the sweet potatoes as the rice that was used in the primary fermentation. So it's 1 to 5.
で、ここに芋を仕込んだ後に先ほどビデオで見たお茶の葉っぱを入れることで、お茶の焼酎です。
で、同じ日にお茶を足す。そうですか。So then they also, the same time that the sweet potatoes go in, the tea also goes in. And that is earlier than I expected.
Me too.
Yeah. I thought it was just going to be like the last day or two.
でも他の蔵と違うのは芋を5倍入れるんですけど、その中の 2.5 倍を先に入れて、ネクストの次の日に 2.5 倍
また 2.5 ぐらい。
で、お茶の葉を
入れる。はいはいはい。あれは他の会社はもういっぺんに5倍分を入れるけど、大体
まあ、うちは2回に分けますね。
なるほど。
はい、
芋もお茶も。
いやいや、お茶は1回ですけど、芋は2つに分けて、1回仕込んで、で、ちょっと温度が上がるのを、まあ、発酵するので温度が上がるので、
そうですね。
それを抑えるために一気に入れずに、次の日もう1回入れて、温度を安定しやすくします。
そうなんですか。初めて聞いた。
まあ、
そうなんですね。
三段仕込みという、まあ、やり方ですけど、まあ、はい。
Okay, learn something new. All right, so the way that they don't put all of the 1 to 5. All of the 5 of the sweet potatoes don't go in on the same day. They put half of it in the first day. And then that gets going. And the problem is, of course, heat. It gets a really vigorous bubbling, and you got to bring the heat down. Their way of bringing the heat back down is to add that extra tonnage of sweet potatoes the next day, which drops it. I've never heard of that before. So usually in shochu we get a 2-stage fermentation. There's 1 and 2. This brand actually sort of has 3, because there's 3 different steps, which is kind of cool. I did not know that. Very interesting. ありがとうございます。
で、まあ、お茶を仕込んだら香りが逃げないようにカバーを。やっぱり香りが逃げるのが怖いのでカバーしながら、
はい、
次の日にまた8日間ぐらいこちらで発酵させて、こちらも別のタンク、また次のが入ってきます。
そうですよね。
はい。
はい。So once they've added all of the sweet potatoes over a couple of days, then it gets transferred to a larger tank because they need to make space for the next batch, and it spends another 4 days over there. で、二次仕込みは1日ですか
2日です。
2日. Okay. The second stage of fermentation is 2 days. The third, 三次仕込みは8ですか
ここは2次仕込みで、言い方、まあ、あそこはまあ3次仕込み。
そうですよね。Okay, so he's even in his own brain, he doesn't really explain this very much. So he's like, is it a second stage? Is it a third stage? Is kind of a 2.5? I'm not sure. So technically 2 days here. 8日間ですか？8. Okay, so 8 days over there. 2, 8, 5 for the total fermentation, plus the 2 for making the koji. Koji, what? 2日. 2, 7, 9, 17. 17-day prep.
で、最後、蒸留。
Last but not least, is that white thing is the still.
蔵の蒸留器、やっぱり最後の味の決め手ですので、やっぱり蔵によって味が違うのは、蔵のついている菌、
そうですね。
酵母っていうのも影響しながら、最終的に蒸留器が味の決め手になります。
麹がついている。
はい、そうです。
So if you know, obviously everybody's pot still has a lot to do with the final flavor and aroma profile, but if you look up at the rafters, you can see there's a lot of koji growing in here.
Yeah.
And all of that koji is part of this story. The yeast too, you know. So it really is about the place. You know, you could take this process and plop it somewhere else in the country, but it would taste very different.
大体皆さん、もっと細長い蒸留器を見られると思います。こっちはちょっとウイスキーみたいな蒸留器。
そうですよね。So he says most shochu makers have kind of more leaner and taller pot stills, and he's got a nice chubby one, which looks a little bit more whiskey-esque in that sense, just because it's rounder and it's wider. どうやって違うんですか？
いろんな設計があると思うんです。まあこれでうちは優しい脂質になるというイメージ。
He thinks that obviously there are a bunch of different ways that they affect the flavor profile differently, but he believes that this one creates a pretty soft and balanced expression of the spirit relative to the leaner, taller one.
高いところ苦手な人はこのメッシュが怖がるんですね。
Okay, if you don't like heights and you don't like to be able to see how high you are, this might not be so much fun because it's all a metal mesh, but it's perfectly safe.
まあ蒸留器は皆さん見られたと思うんですけど、この中にもろみを入れて、蒸気で、蒸気を吹き込んで沸騰させる。で
蒸気は直接
です。 で蒸圧蒸留です。うちは蒸圧しかない。
So this is an atmospheric pot still. You put the fermentation in here, and then it's a direct steam injection style. So you blast the steam in there, raise the temperature, and of course at a much lower temperature than water evaporates, the alcohol starts to release up into the air.
で、できたアルコールが、沸騰すると、これ蒸気で上がっていって、左が液体ですね。
This is a warm tub here on the left side to condense the steam back into a spirit. So technically, shochu is born in that chamber.
液体になったやつがこの2本のタンクの中に入っている。
And it goes into one of these two tanks.
だいたい 38% ぐらいがアルコールになります。
Usually around 38% ABV off still.
できた焼酎は緑のタンクに入れていくという形で。
And then once they finish the run, it goes into one of the green tanks over there. There's a whole block of them.
であとはろ過で作業をしながら調整して、だいたい原子を水と割って、瓶に詰めて出荷していく形です。
So then the pretty typical end game, they will filter, proof down, bottle. Any questions?
What are the temperature ranges, like the outdoor temperatures and stuff? Like, do people ever consider putting your condenser outside, or is it always too warm, or is the water too warm to use that kind of efficiency?
Good question. で、このチランとして一番高い温度と一番低い温度、レンジは気温。
気温は今日本はすごく暑いですけど、暑い日は今36度ぐらいはいかないか、34、5度はいきますね、高い。で、この蔵の中は、上の屋根がスレートという屋根で熱を吸収しやすくて、蔵の中はその1階と2階でも温度差がすごく激しくて、すごく暑いです。
Inside the distillery, I mean outside, the highest temperature is usually around 34, 35 degrees Celsius, which is 70, 100 and single digits. Okay? It gets outside. Now the slate roof on here does a pretty annoying job of allowing the heat in and trapping it. So the second floor temperature is abusively hot, and the first floor downstairs is much cooler usually. So this condenser is up in the heated area. So 別の質問なんだけど、コンデンサー、こっちの方が外を出すことが考えがありました。そうです。そう。で、I asked him about putting the condenser outside, and I just blew his mind.
He's never thought about it.
It's not common. There's probably 7 or 8 distilleries in Scotland that do that. And it's because it's just more efficient. But in summer, it's not.
そうですよね。
So if you replace it, you just rotate everything and throw it out in the shade.
Yeah, right. そうですね。ちょっとスコッチウイスキーみたいな、ちょっと冷たいから外出すっていうこともある。
夏は結構暑いので、
多分そうですね。
そんなに大きく変わらないとは思うんですけど、ここで、蒸気を使っているので、これ自体が暑いから、できれば別のところでやりたいんですけど、もうスタートが私の前の台からここにあるので、
そうですね。
ここでやってるのにお金がないです。
はいはい。He actually would prefer to move the entire still to a different location, but he kind of inherited this setup, so he's kind of just going with what works. But yeah, he's definitely cognizant of the temperature issue, so that's an
We
interesting.
have to sell a ton of it, so he needs.
Build a different facility. Yeah.
Does the introduction of the tea in that secondary fermentation is that obviously it infuses the flavors, but is there an effect that the koji has on the tea as well as like the starches and the sweet potato at all, or is it just as a flavoring kind of thing?
お茶の方がでんぷんが入ってるんですか？
いや、入ってないです。もう香りだけの話ですね。
So the tea doesn't have any starch that can be converted into sugar, so it's purely there as an aromatic. It's lending to the aroma profile of it.
ジンだと思う。
It's kind of in
Botanically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the follow-up to that is, do we know of any enzymatic activity from koji that could be having an effect on the profile of the tea?
麹菌の方はちょっと、アミラーゼ、プロテアーゼの部分入ってるんだけど、
はい
ちょっとお茶と関係あるんですか、ないですか？
その辺ちょっと詳しく分かりませんけど、まあ、私がお茶を使うのは香りだけ考えてて、で使ってるお茶というのは一番茶って言われるやつで、もう一番高価なやつにうまみ成分っていうのが一番多く含まれているので、やっぱり香りとそのうまみというのも一緒に、蒸留で含まれるんじゃないかと思って、やっぱり香りが違うと思うんです。
So he's not aware of any direct action of koji action on the tea itself, but he also said he's not really an expert in that, so he's not entirely sure. He did mention that they use something called ichiban cha, that'll be easy for you guys to know. Ichiban cha, which is a super high premium green tea. They use it because of the flavor characteristics, the most important being the umami characteristic that the tea lends to the shochu, and that's why they work with that one. But again, the koji thing, he says he's not sure that really there's any interaction.
So then all of that, like, since it gets so bitter, so it's frightened into how early it goes in, even though this probably isn't hot enough to do anything, and then it all goes into still with the solids still in, and then how do you clean it out?
で、お茶の方が最後、ちょっと蒸留する前にお茶はまだ見える、溶けちゃうんですか？
いや、溶けないです。見えます。
見えますよね。
見えますね。
で、結構中はちょっと洗いにくいです。
いや、それはもう、これを排出してから、
はい、
毎回洗浄機で、流して、私は中に入って、ウォッシュ。
そうですよね。So he says that the tea doesn't fully disintegrate in the fermentation. You can still see it. It's not like the rice shochu that pretty much turns into liquid at the end of fermentation. And he said, but it's not hard to clean. They basically hose blast it out of the pipe, and then he goes in and he hand scrubs the entire inside of the still by himself to make sure there's no left on.
Since you could pour it through like a tea strainer in the top.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So no, he's like, it's elbow grease, you know.
お茶を入れることで色は変わります。もろみの色はちょっと緑っぽくなります。で蒸留してる時もいつもは白っぽい色なのに、緑っぽい色がこう入っている状態になります。
So of course it's a St. Patrick's Day fermentation. It is green. And it goes in there pretty green, and then obviously when it comes out, it's perfectly clear. But it's a very different sweet potato shochu fermentation than what would be typical in this region.
でお茶のことで言うと、毎年お茶の葉っぱというのは気候によって味が変わりますので、いろんな品種がある中で、先ほどちょっとビデオでも言いましたけど、3、4種類をブレンドして、その年のいい香りをちょっと目指して投入しているので、毎年味は違います。
So because the variations in the tea harvest fluctuate so much based on the climate, based on the weather conditions, he has to use 4 different types of tea blended together to get the flavor profile that he's after every year, because it changes so much. So there will be vintage level differences in terms of how the tea expresses, but he's confident that he can kind of keep it pretty consistent.
What is the proportion of tea to sweet potato rice?
どのぐらいのお茶を入れてるんですか？
今ライブで流れてるので量は言えないですけど、
量は言えないんだけど、はい、
相当な量は入れてます。
結構入れてるんですよ。
さっきビデオで見たああいう感じでどんどん入れてます。
So he doesn't want to say
Trade secret. So he won't tell us on camera because you guys are watching. So So I think because of that, we may need to end the live stream so that we can get the answer. But really appreciate everybody joining us on Shochu'sday, very special edition from Chiran Jozo here in Chiran, Kagoshima. And we're going to have all of the Winebow team sign us off with a kanpai, okay? 1, 2, 3, kanpai! Hope you guys enjoyed that.